Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are taking a look at how much my dividend investing portfolio here earned over the last month. Now, as we're recording this, the stock market has been going up for quite some time, and you can see right over here, we're currently sitting at $408,990, which I believe is the highest dollar amount we have on recording, which is pretty exciting. I actually think it went a little bit higher than that over the last couple of weeks, but I didn't have a chance to record. So what we're going to do is break down how the portfolio has been doing, and then of course look at the companies that paid out their dividends, as well as look at our dividend income tracker. Now, real quick, I am using M1 Finance as well as some other tools. If you want to check them out, you can support us by checking out the links in the show notes down below. Helps me out to make more free content just like this. Now, obviously, we talked about how large this dollar amount is in our portfolio, but I do love to show people that when we started this account, we were starting off with $100, and then we actually went ahead and did I believe it was $10 a week, then jumped up to 20, 30, 40, 50, and then once we started getting more comfortable and started earning more money, we were putting in more, as well as during the downturns of the market back in end of 2021, all of 2022, we were still investing. Even though this looks like it was staying pretty flat, we were actually buying in while the market was constantly dropping. Hard to do, but that's what we ended up doing. And actually right now, with the market as high as it is, I'm actually buying much less while still investing on a regular basis. And I did do one sell in my portfolio, which you might actually see it today, or I might make it into a separate video. So you could actually see down over here, total dividends earned overall, obviously not this month, that would be great, but overall is $5,861.25. But again, we're going to look at how much we made this month in dividends, which companies paid them out, and how we're doing so far for the year, as we got one more month left in 2024 to be able to add it all up. Now, total market gains for this account is $183, which is great, but that is staying consistent with constantly investing regardless of how the market was doing. Again, I'm actually one where when the market's doing really, really well, I have a tendency to slow down. So I'm going to go to the year to date so you guys can see where we're at. We have the money weighted return being at 41.54%. You're going to see at the max, it was at $423,000. Like I said, I didn't actually record at the time. So as of right now, the 408 is the highest. I actually did do a small sell here. So you can actually see a really big dip. So that wasn't the market going down. That was my sale. There was something else I was going to be doing with some of that money. So I wanted to move it aside. So what we're going to want to do now is really first and foremost, I'll kind of explain which company is performing the best, and then we'll go into our dividend income, since we'll do separate videos on just the individual performances. So right now, the company that is actually performing the highest is going to be with our SoFi. So you can see here, we're actually up $43,449 on this. And that's actually with having sold some of that. That was actually the company I ended up selling. It definitely went a little bit higher than I was expecting for its current value. So I only trimmed a little bit of it in the means of actually doing some other investments that I am looking to do in the very near future. But definitely will continue to be buying this in. Most likely, if the price starts to slow down a little bit, it's a little too much for me when it comes to current prices. I believe it's around $16 as of this recording. Yeah, it's at $16.39. So it's a little rich for me right now. That PE ratio is definitely starting to get a little bit too high for me to warrant for the even foreseeable future of where I project the company to go. But nonetheless, today's episode, let's go ahead and take a look at the dividends, and we'll bring up the dividend tracker as well, which I'll give you a quick overview right over here. This is that dividend tracker that I put together. If you want to check it out, I'll have a link for it in the show notes down below. Just a little something I put together, helps also support me out. But that way you can keep track of all your dividends for every month, every quarter as well, and then you can have some visuals to see where you're at. I personally love it. It's one of my favorites, but of course I'm a little biased there. So let's go ahead and go to our activity feed here. You can see really quick as I was talking, I'm only putting in around like $200 every week or so. Actually, I've been a couple weeks in between at some points, just because of the sheer fact that I've seen the market grow so much that I've slowed down. And for me, that's just where I'm at the moment. So I've definitely slowed down. There's not a lot of great buys. I think as of right now, the purchases I have been doing, I've just been these three companies: Airbnb, the Vanguard ETF, the VOOG, which is just the top 250 companies of the S&P 500, and then Google itself. So those are kind of the current buys that I have at the time. So let's go ahead and switch this activities over to just dividends. So we can take a quick look here. So we got paid out with 3 different companies in the month of November. So the first company is with Apple on the 14th. We got paid out $37.27. And then we got paid out from Ally Financial for $144.57. And then Costco paid out an $18.26 dividend, which came out to $200.10. And I'm going to zoom in on here really quick. So you can actually see right over here for November, we went ahead and plugged that in. Now, I do like to do some comparisons and see where I was before. So let me kind of just gather this real quick. So in the year of 2024, and then we're here in November. So there's a couple things we like to do. So first off, let's go look at see what we did in 2023. We actually made less than what we did in 2023. And in part, that's because of the companies that we sold that paid out in that time period, which I believe was Texas Instrument at the time that we had. So that was a huge drop because they paid a high dividend, and obviously not every company pays in the same months. But still, nonetheless, if we actually look at what we did in August, these are the companies that also paid out in November. We actually had a small increase from there, which was $199.62. And then again, if you look back in May, same price, $199.62. So it was an increase from there. And then if you look at February, right over here, you could see again, there was a higher income, but that was again when we still had Texas Instrument on the books there for us. So we definitely went down as far as how much we were making, but overall, I think the companies we are holding, obviously some companies like SoFi that we were heavily investing in this year, don't pay a dividend, but they definitely had some really nice growth to the overall portfolio. And then what I also like to do too is kind of see where we're at overall. So you could actually see here, so for Q4, we're sitting at 203.40 with December still to come in, and December is usually going to be one of the biggest months. You could kind of get an idea of what we're looking at when you look at September, because those are going to be the same companies. So if we're probably going to be a little over that $400 marker. But what's really nice, and this is what I love to see, and this is why I love the tracker, is that right now you can see we are year to date well over what we did last year. So last year we ended the year at $1,545, and this year we're already, with one more month to go, sitting at $2,274. So if we make what we made for September as an example, let's just say we do exactly the same, $435.36, we're going to be sitting right around $2,700 for the entire year. Obviously, make sure you're subscribed so you can see how we do for the month. And then I'm going to switch this over to 11 months. So I like to see how much we make per hour, whether we're awake or asleep, in our dividends. It's going to be right there for us. And then obviously that's based off of the current year. So right now we're making 28 cents per hour, day and night. Whether I'm on vacation, doing some work, or hanging out, I am making 28 cents in dividends just from my M1 Finance portfolio, not including my retirement or anything else on top of that. So you can see right over here, we're going to have a pretty solid end to the year for 2024. I'm excited to see that growth. And, you know, for anybody that's kind of been keeping track, I actually did add a little tab over here into our dividend tracker. Obviously, you would update this with your companies that you have in here if you ended up purchasing this. So you can see the symbols for the companies we have and when they estimate to do updates for their dividend increases. These are just based off of what they did over the last couple of years. So you can see we have a couple companies like Ally is potentially going to be increasing in January. Obviously, they haven't done it since 2022, so that might not be the case. But we also have in February a couple companies. We have Booking, we have Home Depot, and then we also have Meta. And this one I'm really excited for because Meta hasn't yet done a dividend increase just yet. They just started paying out dividends back in February of 24. So for us, it'll be really exciting to see how much they increase their dividend, because if we actually take a look here on Seeking Alpha, if we go to their dividend tab, their payout ratio is 7%. Anything under 60 is pretty solid, so they have so much room for growth. I would not be surprised if right over here in the next couple of years, we see this at like 15% growth over the next 5 years. That would be pretty incredible. So what we're buying in now, or what we've purchased before all the price increases, our yield on cost is going to look really, really, really good on Meta stocks. So really excited to see those ones come through. And you get that little tab, but you'll just have to manually put these in. And the reason I did that is because I like to know when my companies are increasing, so I know when to look for those increases to get that nicer payout, because that helps in our goal here to have money in the next 10, 15 years to be able to live off of. Because right now we're averaging about 206 a month, which is fantastic, but we definitely want to start inching closer to that 500 a month, $1,000 a month, 1,500, even up to $5,000 a month. But of course, like I mentioned, stick around because you'll be able to see that growth happen over time here on the channel. And I'll share with you guys my insights, the things I'm doing with my portfolio and how it's running. And like I mentioned, we're going to be here to showcase this. But if you want to check out either the template or M1 Finance or any of the other resources, like I mentioned, I'll have that all in the show notes down below. Helps me out to continue to do this kind of content. And speaking of more content here as well, I'm going to put up my next video so you can keep on watching and learning when it comes to dividend investing.